a lot of damage.
Yo, what's good, gang? Today I'm going to show y'all how to turn Valkyr into an absolute monster. And you can do this with Valkyr or Valkyr Prime. And I will be showing you guys actually how to obtain base Valkyr if you don't already own her or own her Prime. She will work perfectly fine as a substitute if you don't have the Prime, because her relics are actually vaulted right now, and there is not that much of a noticeable stat difference between her base and her regular forms. Now we can get her base form by defeating Alid V on Themisto on Jupiter, as you saw. So I'll do some video footage on how to find and defeat that boss as well. I do believe it's the Sunuka boss fight. Starting our Valkyr video though, we actually need to come over here and talk about our Sentinel. I chose the Worm Prime for personal reasons. I just like the way that it looks. You can do this build on literally whatever Sentinel you like, just so long as you run the Coolant Leak mod as your precept. This is going to spread 3 stacks of cold to any enemy within 10 meters of you when this precept goes off, and it's got a 10-second cooldown. Now, by itself, it's not all that impressive, but if you consider pairing it with Manifold Bond like we do here in this video, your precept mod will also inherit whatever status effects are on your companion's weapon and proc them guaranteed anytime it activates. And also, killing an enemy that is carrying those status effects will reduce its cooldown by 3 seconds. Now, and for our Sentinel weapon, we chose Burst Laser Prime, which allows us to stack all of these status effects on it, and also still manage a 54% crit chance to proc our Tenacious Bond, which I will show you here momentarily. This essentially is just going to give us 1.2x free flat crit damage multiplier to be added onto our base. So again, that mod is called Tenacious Bond, and we do have it on the build over here as well. So make sure you go and pick this up. I believe this comes from one of the vendors that takes the pet tickets. I think it's the Fortuna vendor. Anyway, we're getting our crit chance here out of a Riven mod, but you can also run Prime Pistol Gambit if you don't have the Riven mod, which will put you at about 57% crit chance, which is actually higher than what I have in my Riven. And if you don't have Prime Pistol Gambit, you can run Creeping Bullseye, because base Pistol Gambit will not get your crit chance high enough. That'll put you at about 60% critical chance, which still meets the needed condition for Tenacious Bond. Now, moving forward, again, we do have all of these status effects on here, and we are running one of the Spittle mods for the impact weighting. But this is also going to give us the Spittle mod set bonus, which is going to benefit our Valkyr and increase her output by a lot, which I'll show you later. Coming over here again to Valkyr herself, we're going to start off actually with her arcanes. Now, as you can see, we're running Arcane Battery here, and the reason we're running that is because that's going to increase our energy with our armor, and she has a lot of base armor at 1,000. So when we're gaining 0.3 maximum energy per point of armor up to 1,000 energy, and we have 1,000 base armor to start with, that's going to put us at about 525 base energy with nothing else added in. This is with no armor increases, no shards, nothing. So when we increase our armor with mods and we're at 3,350 armor, we actually end up at about 1,225 energy, which is a lot for Valkyr. This basically ensures that we'll be able to run our build the way we want at all times. Prolonged Paralysis in here for our Augment mod is going to allow us to still have some crowd control, some grouping, even though we got rid of our first ability. And any enemies affected by this crowd control will also suffer the damage vulnerability that comes from paralysis itself. So this is going to be a good tool for us to have in this build. Moving forward, we are running yet another Saxa mod for health and armor, so that adds another 0.2 hours set. And we're also running Arcane Fury in here for the base melee damage increase. Now moving on over to our Vinka, which is actually just here to carry our third Saxa mod and give us the full set bonus for this while not needing to waste any capacity or mod slots on our actual claws. Now, we have Naramon as our skill tree because of the power spike bonus, which is going to give us melee combo count sustain. This essentially just makes it so that our combo meter only decays by 5 points every few seconds rather than running out completely. So that keeps our combo uptime going by a lot more as compared to just running the 5 seconds of combo duration we have. Now we have a 105% crit chance here with a 6.2 base crit damage multiplier, which is not bad. We're going to go ahead and smack melee influence onto this. Where are you? There you are. Gonna go ahead and smack melee influence onto this build as well. Okay, so I want to take some time to explain to some of you the mechanics behind what you're looking at here. We're running the mod Condition Overload in this build, right? Condition Overload gives us 80% base damage increase additive per status effect that our targets are suffering. Now, with our targets suffering from 7 separate status effects coming from our Sentinel, electricity from our melee, and cold from our precept mod on our Sentinel, that puts us at about 9 status effects, all of which will be getting transferred around the room by our Sentinel and our melee influence. Now, influence becomes a lot more viable on this build when we are running Weeping Wounds, because the way that Weeping Wounds functions is that it takes 40% of whatever your weapon's base status chance is and adds that times your combo multiplier. This means that we can effectively achieve 58% status chance just off of Weeping Wounds alone. And the way that this is done is it takes 40% of our 10, which is 4, and it adds that per combo multiplier. So when we're at 12x, we are now at 48% status chance. This is added to our base 10% and puts us at 58% status chance, making melee influence a lot more viable of a choice to have on this build. We're going to go ahead and address our Archon shards and our Helminth. So for our Helminth, we actually chose Wrathful Advance from Kalervo, who you get from the Diviri Paradox game mode. For our Archon shards, we are running 5 Tau Forged purple Archon shards for melee critical damage increase, but these purple ones will actually give you double the value at 74% melee critical damage bonus if you are over 500 energy. Now, if you remember earlier in the build, I mentioned that we are running Arcane Battery, which gives us 1225 base energy when paired with our 3000 energy count. This puts us well over the necessary bracket to reach the additional critical damage bonus that we gain from these purple shards, and with 5 of them in play along with Tenacious Bond, we gain a massive leap in the amount of critical damage we get, up to 12.5 from the shards alone, and then we're getting an additional 1.2 from Tenacious Bond, putting us at an overall 13.7 times crit damage multiplier. Now, with the critical tier that we are hitting with Wrathful Advance, we're at about tier 6 crits. So in order to calculate the amount of damage that we are getting out of that, we have to take our critical tier and multiply that by our critical damage multiplier. So essentially we are going to take our tier 6, which is our critical tier, and we are going to multiply that by our critical damage multiplier to effectively find out how much crit damage we are dealing. So if we take 6 and multiply that times 13.7, we end up at 82.2x crit damage. This is without factoring in the additional critical damage bonus that we are gaining through galvanized steel. We're just going to go ahead and really quickly cover the Saxum mod set and the reason that we have it on our Valkyr. So the Saxum mod set essentially just gives us the opportunity to deal 30% of the enemy's max HP as raw impact damage within a 12-meter radius when we defeat a lifted enemy. Valkyr's heavy attack paired with tennocon works really well with this, because this allows us to lift enemies and deal a lot of damage very quickly over a decently sized area. So now we're going to go ahead and cover also how to get Valkyr herself. As you can see, you get her components from defeating Aladvi on Themisto Jupiter, and her blueprint is actually obtainable through the market. So just go into the market and type in her name like we've done up here, and then you're going to click on her portrait here, and you'll be able to purchase her blueprint for exactly 35,000 credits. This is going to be available to you regardless of level or mastery rank. Once you actually reach Themisto on Jupiter, you should be in a tile set that looks something like this, and you'll be approaching Aladvi. It's a relatively short boss fight. Just make sure that you defeat him and Zanuka quickly before they revive each other, and you should be golden. So we're just going to go ahead and beat him really quickly here, and then I will show you what loot drops to be looking for when this mission is over in your post-mission progression. So yeah, we just went ahead and defeated Zanuka and Aladvi, and now we're going to go ahead and extract. So the next cut, I will meet you guys there. Alright, so now we're at extraction, and as you can see, we got the Valkyr chassis blueprint. Now, each Warframe has 3 components, with the exception of a few like Equinox, but we'll cover that in another video. You're going to be looking for Valkyr chassis, Valkyr neuroptic, and Valkyr systems. So you may need to run this boss fight a few times in order to get all of the components. But yeah, once you have all those components and you craft them, you'll be able to craft the main Valkyr herself, and you can go ahead and get started on this build. Make sure you guys like, comment, and share the video so you can get your boy into the algorithm. And if this video does well, I will actually be making more build videos and more guides on how to go about getting different frames or building different weapons. That being said, that's going to be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, hope you learned something, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.